Welcome to the February 3rd, 2025 Claims Meeting. At this time, I'd like to call this meeting to order, and I ask the clerk, please call a roll.
Councilwoman Horoyan. Councilman Andujar.
Present.
Councilman Ritz.
Present.
Councilman Trafficante.
Present.
Council Vice President Wall.
Here.
Council President Marino.
Next item of business would be public comment. If there's anyone here in the chambers this evening who would like to make public comment on docketed matters only, please state your name and address for the record. And I just remind you that you have 4 minutes to speak. Is there anyone here who would like to make public comment? There being none, Tom, is there anyone online who would like to make public comment?
Just a reminder to the public, please use the raise hand function. I am not seeing any public comment.
All right, then moving right along, I'd like to close public comment. At this time, I'm going to entertain a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42465A2. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Any discussion? Or could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Horoyan.
yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes. We're in executive session. Thank you. All right, at this time, I'm gonna entertain a motion to return to the open session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Horayan. Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes. Let me just state for the record that there were votes taken during the executive session. This time, I'm going to entertain a motion to seal the executive session minutes.
So moved.
Any discussion? Being none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Horayan.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes. Okay, next item of business would be approval of minutes. This time, we're going to be looking for a motion to approve of the minutes from the January 13th regular meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Horayan.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes. Next item is the approval of the sealed minutes for the January 13th, 2025 executive session. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? And just for the record, that is a motion to approve those minutes? Okay, all right. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Horayan.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes. All right, seeing no further business before the committee, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed signify by saying nay. The ayes have it. The next meeting will start approximately 5 minutes.
Good evening. Welcome to the Safety Services and Light meeting on February 3rd, 2025. I'd like to call this to order tonight. Clerk, may I please have a roll call?
Councilwoman Graziano. Councilman Andujar.
Present.
Councilman Ritz.
Present.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice
Present.
President Wall.
Here.
Councilwoman Harayan.
Present.
Council President Marino.
Next item of business is approval of the minutes from January 13th, 2025, regular meeting. May,
So moved.
Second.
okay. Clerk, may I please have a roll call?
Councilman Andujar.
Here.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Councilwoman Harayan.
Yes. Next item is approval of the minutes from January 27th.
So moved.
Second that.
Clerk, may I please have a roll call?
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Councilwoman Harayan.
Yes. Next item is public comment on document items only. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak tonight on documented items only? Tom, is there anyone online?
I'm seeing no public comment online.
Okay. I'm going to close public comment then. Public hearings tonight. The first one is Starbucks Coffee, 49910, located at 1 Chapelville Boulevard. Hours of business, 5:30 a.m. to 9. Oh, they changed it from 9 a.m. to 5:30, Monday through Sunday. Could I please have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Clerk, may I please have a roll call?
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Councilwoman Harayan.
Yes. The second item is Starbucks Coffee, 7355, located at 4 Midway Road. Hours of operation 2 are starting at 5 a.m. to 9 p.m.
So
Motion to
moved.
approve.
Okay,
Second.
any discussion? Clerk, may I please have a roll call?
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Councilwoman Harayan.
Yes. Okay, next item tonight is the Class BV liquor license. This is a new license for the Blue Room LLC located at 2197 Broad Street. Hours of operation are Tuesday through Thursday, 4 p.m. to 11 p.m., Friday, 4 p.m. to 12, Saturday, 10 a.m. to 12 a.m., and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6. This is going to require a full council vote for the liquor license as we are over capacity for our liquor licenses. And I believe a letter of good standings was submitted today, clerk?
That is correct.
Okay, I am looking today for the most to grant this application, grant subject to application to producing the missing items.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Clerk, please take a roll call.
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Councilwoman Harayan.
Yes. All right, next one is JMMH Corp. doing business as Ganza Asian Bistro located at 736 Park Avenue. Hours of operation 11 a.m. to 10:30. This also is going to require to go to full council for approval. There's an outstanding item here. Was it submitted today?
No, it was not.
Is anyone here from this business that would like to come forward? Welcome. Please just state your name and address slowly so the stenographer can record it. Green button.
Oh. Oh, okay, got it. Thanks, sorry. Yulin Zhang, 736 Park Avenue, Cranston. And we're here for transfer liquor license from 999 Restaurant, Inc. to JMMH.
Okay, this says we're still missing a letter of good standing from Department of Revenue from the state of Rhode Island. By chance, do you have that letter present with you?
Oh, he has it, but he didn't bring it with him. Is there any way he can just bring it when he get his license or?
Solicitor?
Okay, I'm sorry, just as a point of order, this is not a transfer. This would still be a new license application, correct? Okay. I didn't follow that very last exchange.
They state they have the letter of good standing, not present but at home.
Okay,
Could I ask for a motion to approve this, subject to them providing all needed missing items?
yes,
So,
All right. Motion to approve, subject to receiving, it's the letter of good standing?
So moved.
second.
When you submit that to the clerk's office, they will issue your license, but not until you submit that to the clerk.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
So you're able to get tomorrow or? Yes, okay.
Right, yes, but it still needs to go to full council for approval, Chairwoman. Can't issue the license tomorrow.
Sorry,
because it has
yes.
to go to full
We're,
council.
we're voting it out of committee, then it will go to our next full council meeting to be voted out.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
You are,
Can we vote?
okay. Could I please have a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes,
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Haroyan.
Yes. Next item up is Ming's Asian Street Food located at 1864 Broad Street. Hours of operation 12 PM to 9 PM. This also is going to have to go to a full council if we vote it out of committee tonight.
So moved.
Is there anyone here from that business tonight?
Evening.
Good evening. Please just state your name and your
Yes,
address.
Harold Burgoyne, Harold Burgoyne. Burgoyne. 1 Greenbrier Court West in Greenville, Rhode Island. I'm the general manager for Ming's. I'm glad to be here tonight, represent the business. We're pleased to present our application to you. Glad to take any questions you may have.
Does anyone have any questions?
Councilwoman Chair, there is an account with their hand raised on Zoom. I'm not sure if it's an additional applicant. The account name is iPhone. Do you want me to bring them in?
Motion,
we have a motion and a second
okay,
Second it.
discussion.
discussion.
Yes.
We're gonna let the person,
Hello. Hello, my name's Joshua Burgoyne. I just raised my hand when you asked if anybody from the business was there tonight. I am here via Zoom.
If there's any questions,
yeah,
hearing
there
by
are,
Zoom, so
we do not have any questions at this time. Okay, could I please have a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
yes,
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Haroyan.
Yes. Thank you.
If I may, we also have a victualling license up. Will that be called next, or will that be later on in the hearing?
Later on.
Later in the hearing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Next item of business is transfer of Class A liquor license from M's Liquor Store, doing business as M's Liquor Store located at 1285 Park Ave, to 3/3 LLC, doing business as Cranston Wine and Spirits located at 1285. Is there anyone here from the business that would like to come forward?
Good evening, Brian LaPlante, on behalf of the buyer, the
Okay.
transferee.
Thank you. Okay. I see that we're still missing a letter of good standing.
Yes, and would respectfully request that you approve it subject to our provision of that letter.
Okay.
Motion to approve, subject to receiving the letter of good standing.
Second.
Any discussion on this?
Madam Chair, if I may interject just before the vote, just for the record, this particular establishment, there had been, last month, there was an objection filed by Attorney Pisano. I don't know if all of you recall, I placed that into the record. I did receive from Attorney Pisano a letter indicating that those outstanding obligations have in fact been satisfied, they've been paid.
Have been
So,
paid.
yeah, so there's no roadblock.
Okay. Clerk, there's no other objections that were emailed in today?
We have not received any new objections.
Okay, thank you. May I please have the motion, or did you make it, Dan? Okay, could I please have a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Haroyan.
Yes. Okay, there's nothing listed tonight under show cause. Next item of business is committee business carried over. Auto repair license, J&J Corp. doing business as Caravan Auto located at 1185. Hours of business is 8 AM to 5 and Saturday, 8 AM to 2. Thank you for correcting that, as last month we thought it went till 2 AM and now we understand it doesn't. I understand that the fire department did complete their report also and submitted, okay.
Yeah, AMIN, and my last name is JAMOUS. 1185 Cranston Street.
Okay, solicitor,
Yes.
on this, I see that the police did do a report, and I did read that from Officer Reardon. Do we need to do anything about that?
I think that was just information for informational purposes. I think the police were just sent down to see if the business was in operation, because as you recall, at the time, they were unlicensed. But there's no need for further action unless the committee feels in its discretion that some action needs to be taken. The administration isn't seeking anything other than to just communicate, sir, that you're not supposed to be operating in the city of Cranston until you get the license. Yeah. We kind of overlooked it this time, but going forward, you have to make sure you have the necessary licenses, okay?
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, at the last one, there was a lot of concern about operating without a license and with your failed previous fire inspection. And that was a big concern to the committee, but your councilman was kind enough to go there, find out the situation, relay that to us. And he said he had a great conversation with you and everything. So you're understanding what needs to be done now.
For sure, for sure. Definitely.
Okay. Could I please have a motion?
So if I'm understanding,
Yeah.
there's no outstanding items?
There's nothing outstanding.
Okay, a motion to approve that.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion on this?
Madam Chair, I just want to let you know for the record, I did visit the applicant's property and premises, and they're running a smooth ship and they understand what happened and it won't happen again. So I just thank you for staying in business in Cranston.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. The police officer did report that also, that everyone was very kind, escorted him around, showed him around the business.
Thank you so much.
Councilwoman Graziano, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I just want to echo the concern about having an expired license. I don't want to like hammer upon it, but if you communicate with the city and the clerk's office and let them know and show up at the meetings, that goes a long way. So we would just love to see that. Like I would have loved to see you at the last meeting explaining kind of what was happening with the fire inspection. The concern is we just don't want employees and staff being in the building without having proper inspection. So it's a safety concern. So I just want to iterate, we're happy to work with you. We're excited you're in Cranston, but we would just love more communication.
I understand.
Madam Chairwoman?
Yes.
Just a point for the record, that it wasn't an expired license. This is a new license. I
This
just
is
want,
totally
that had been
new.
continued. It wasn't a renewal. It's a new.
I meant the inspired, sorry, the fire.
Clerk, could I please have a roll vote?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan.
Yes. Okay, next item on the agenda is Victorian license. This is a new one. APP Cranston doing business as Pizza Mama. Is there anyone here from that business tonight? Could you please come forward, state your name and your address?
William Kitsillis, 25 Channing Ave, Providence, Rhode Island. Kitsillis, Kitsillis.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to say to us?
Happy to be in Cranston.
Okay, excellent. And clerk, I don't see any missing items on this.
That's correct.
Could I please have a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Could I please have a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Have a great night.
You also. Okay. For the committee tonight, additional hours Victorian license for CVS Pharmacy, number 212, located at 681 Reservoir Avenue. Hours are 24/7, previously held a sales license per solicitor required to hold a Victorian license. Not new applicant, not required to be here tonight. Could I please have a motion to approve this?
Motion to
moved.
approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Could I please have a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan.
Yes. The next one item is the Aldi Store 39 located at 1138 Pontiac Ave. Hours are Monday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Previously held a holiday sales license, same situation, per solicitor, required to hold Victorian license, not a new applicant. They were not required to come tonight, so could I please have a motion to pass
Motion to
this?
approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, may I please have a roll call?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan.
Yes. Next item is another at Aldi Store 36 located at 1015 Cranston Street. Hours are 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Same situation, previously held a holiday sales license per solicitor, required to hold a Victorian license, not a new applicant. They were not required to come. Could I please have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, may I please have a roll call?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan.
Yes. Next item is the Blue Room RI LLC located at 2197 Broad Street. Hours of operation, 4 p.m. to 11 p.m., 4 p.m. Fridays, 4 p.m. to 12 a.m., Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 12 a.m., Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. They are missing a Rhode Island Department of Health license. The owner did reach out to me and explain to me she cannot receive that as they are building out a new kitchen. So I'm going to ask for a motion tonight to approve this item with subject to the applicant providing the missing items.
Motion to approve, subject to receiving the Rhode Island Department of Health license. Is that the only missing item?
Second.
Yes. Okay, any discussion on this? Councilman Underhouse?
City solicitor, where is it? Question for you, on a Monday holiday, Sunday, do they get to extend their hours?
I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of that.
Holiday, the Sunday before a holiday, do they get to extend their hours?
For victualling?
Yes.
Yes, because that, I know what you're thinking of.
I just wanted it for the
That's-
record.
That's with BV licenses, I think what you're thinking of, but yes.
I want to personally say I cannot wait for the Blue Room to open, as I frequent the district often and love the meatballs, so I'll be very excited. Okay. Clerk, may I please have a roll call?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan.
Yes. Next item is JMM H Corp. doing business as Ganza Asian Bistro located at 736 Park Avenue. I don't see any missing items. Clerk, is everything in?
It appears so.
May I
Motion to
please have a
approve.
motion?
Motion to approve.
Any discussion? Clerk, may I please have a roll call?
I'll second.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan.
Yes. Next item is Lucky Mart LLC located at 880 Oakland Avenue. It previously held the holiday sale license per solicitor, required to hold their victoring license. Not a new applicant. They were required to come tonight. Could I please have a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, may I please have a roll call?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan.
Yes. Okay, next is Ming's Asian Street Food LLC located at 1864 Broad Street. Hours of operation, as we said earlier, was Thursday through Monday, 12 PM to 9 PM. Outstanding items is the Department of Health. Is there anyone here from that still?
Good evening, back again, Harold Burgoyne. So the kitchen is being built out and the front of the store is being renovated as well. So we're subject to completion of the construction before we can get the health department license.
Excellent, okay. And then once the kitchen's built out, you'll just request the Department of Health to come out. Thank you. May I please have a motion? to go-
Motion to approve, subject to receiving the Rhode Island Department of Health license.
Second.
Any discussion? Could I please have a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan.
Yes. Okay. The next item is Rashan doing business as Gulf Express located at 2148 Broad Street. Hours of operation, Monday through Saturday, 6 AM to 9 PM, Sunday, 6 AM to 9 to 8 PM. Previously held a holiday sales license per solicitor, required to hold the victoring license, not a new applicant, not to be here. Could I please have a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, may I please have a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan.
Yes. Okay, next item, not sure how to pronounce it, Shanada Holdings LLC doing business as Gardana Pizzeria located at 693 Oakland Avenue. Is anyone here from that business?
Muhammad Shahade. Muhammad Shahade.
And
Okay, the first or the last? Okay, it's MOHMMAD. And the family name Shahade, Shihadeh. It's 93 Oaklawn Ave.
Do you have anything to tell us tonight?
I hope you'll come visit us when we open.
Okay, clerk, have we received the Department of Health license?
No, we have not.
We have the inspection on Thursday.
You have the inspection on
9
Thursday?
a.m. in the morning.
Okay, thank you. May I please have a motion?
Motion to approve, subject to receiving the Rhode Island Department of Health license.
Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, may I please have a roll call?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante, Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item is Sweeney's Chocolates located at 43 Hillside Road. Hours of operation Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. Previously held holiday sales license, per solicitor required to hold Victorine license, not a new applicant. They were not required to be here. Could I please have a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, may I please have a roll call vote?
Can I just ask a question? This is on Shri Sadi LLC DBA Milk and More? Okay. Doesn't matter. I just wanted to make sure I have it correct.
Yeah, this is for Sweeney, so why don't we do Sweeney and then go back? Is that okay, solicitor? Okay. This is for Sweeney's. Could I please have a motion?
A motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? No. Clerk, could I have the roll call?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Okay, we skipped over 9. Sorry, everyone. Shri Sadi LL doing business as Milk and More located at 1232 Park Ave. Hours of operation, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., Sunday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Previously held holiday sale license, per solicitor, required to hold Victorine license, not a new applicant, not required to be here. Please have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, may I please have a roll call?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Okay. Next on our agenda is license renewals before the committee. This one, it says additional hours, votes might be taken, 5 Herb Pizza located at 500 Dyer Avenue. Is anyone here from this business tonight? No. Okay, they're requesting to be open Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 a.m., Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 4 a.m. Does anyone have anything to say now or no?
I believe
What
I'll
were
say
the
that
original
discussion.
hours?
Okay, may I please have a motion
Motion
to
to
approve?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Madam Chair, I spoke to the manager of the businesses, they've been in existence for a long time. I asked them about the 4 a.m. license, and I believe after 11:30, 12 a.m., they will shut the doors and it will be delivery only. He does have safety procedures in place to where the drivers are not gonna have excessive amount of cash on them. The drivers that they also employ aren't gonna have those loud mufflers. So, and they also willing to cooperate with the Cranston Police Department if somebody were to call at 3 a.m. and ask for 50 pizzas. So, they've been in business for a long time, and I personally visited the site.
Are there any houses nearby, or is this like in a mini plaza?
It's in a main plaza, there are houses in the back. But like
There
I
are.
said, the business has been there for a long time, and I believe city solicitor, they've had this license already.
Till 4 a.m.?
I don't know what licenses they may have held. Prior to this, the clerk may know. I don't
There
know.
might have been a confusion, but apparently he said he already had it till 4 a.m. But I assured him that it's a new council and we wanted to hear from them, so I went and spoke to him personally.
All right, and they've been operating till 4 a.m. with no problems?
They haven't been open till 4 a.m. No, that's more of a summer, spring. type thing.
Solicitor, if this gets approved tonight and then say it becomes a problem, could we call them back before us?
Absolutely. The committee always has that discretion to call any license holder before it.
All right, clerk, could I please have a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is holiday sales license. American Performance Petroleum located at 964 Cranston Street. Hours of operation are Monday through Sunday, 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. Could I please have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, could I please have a roll call? Vote.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Okay, next is,
Madam Chair, if I may interject, I apologize for the interruption, but this may speed things up a little bit. Like the renewals, it appears that the items under Roman numeral 12B 1 through 25 can be taken as a block, with the exception, so if someone makes a motion to take this as a block, please do so with the exception of items number 2 and item number 5. And then we could consider those separately.
I'd like to make a motion to take the remainder of the holiday sales licenses as a block, with the exception of item number 2 and item number 5.
So moved.
Second.
any discussion? Clerk, could I please have a call vote?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Motion to approve the block?
Second.
Any discussion? May I please have a roll call?
I'm sorry,
Solicitor?
Madam Chair, just for the sake of clarity, motion to approve the block with the exception of the previous mentioned items, number 2 and number 5, just to keep the record straight.
Motion to approve the block with the exception of items number 2 and number 5.
Second.
Clerk, may I please have a roll call?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Okay, now we're gonna, number 2, and it's Atwood Greenhouses did at 700 Atwood Avenue. Hours of operation are 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Is there anyone here from that business? Okay, clerk, have we received anything from them?
No.
Okay, so we're still missing the Rhode Island retail sales permit, right? All right, could Solicitor Clerk,
Certainly within your discretion. I frown on this a little bit when it's not a liquor license, approving it subject to conditions, because this retail sales license is an important license for them to get. It's in your discretion. You can approve this subject to the applicant providing the retail sales license. That's one option. The other option being you could continue this if you really want to speak to the applicant. That's up to the committee.
I'd like a motion to continue this, I'm asking for.
Motion to continue, subject to receiving the Rhode Island retail sales permit.
Second.
I think the motion to continue is just a motion to continue. If it was a motion to approve, it would be subject to.
Motion to continue.
Second.
Anyone have any discussion on this? Councilwoman Graziano?
I just want to make a note that I'd like them to show up at the next meeting. So if we can get in contact with them, that would be great.
Council President, please.
I could be wrong on this. This is just from regular observation of over the years and a recent. I believe that they are closed in the winter months after the holiday season, and they do not open their greenhouse again until the spring. I could be wrong. So Just keep that in mind. I agree with the motion to continue. I'll be in approval of that tonight, but just for a little background. Thanks.
I believe I went by and they didn't look open, so yeah, the motion to continue. Okay, second. Could I please have a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horion,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Is going to be GJ Corp. doing business as Classic Liquors located at 1358 Plainfield Pike. Is there anyone here tonight from that business? No, okay. I'm actually gonna ask for, have they submitted anything, clerk?
Not as of today.
I'm gonna ask for the same to continue this into the next meeting.
Motion to continue to the next meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, may I please have a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horion,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Madam Chair, if I may, it would also be in order to take, letter C as a block. There are 3 items there, so again, it might speed things up a bit.
Thank you. I'm
Motion
a-
to take letter C, leasing of motor vehicles as a block.
Second.
Any discussion? Could I please have a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz, Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horion,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Item D is massage therapy license.
No,
for-
motion to approve the block.
Could I please the block?
Second.
Discussion? Could I please have a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Councilwoman Horion,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Next is massage therapy license, KML Therapy, located at 150 Midway Road. Is there anyone here tonight for that? Okay, could I please have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, may I please have a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horion,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
No.
Next is septic hauler license. Holman Septic located at 161 Willow Lane, Portsmouth, Rhode Island. Is there anyone here from them? No. Could I please have a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve.
Any discussion? Could I please have a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horion,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Next item is F, Public Entertainment License, Annunciation Greek Orthodox Church located at 175 Oak Lawn Ave. The date of the event is February 8th, 2025. Hours of the event, 7 PM to 11 PM. Live entertainment. Could I please have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Was that a motion and a second or two
Second.
motions? Okay, any discussion? Clerk, may I please have a roll call?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horion,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Okay, next item on the agenda is Victorine license for Bruno's Bakery Cafe located at 567 Reservoir Ave. Hours of operation, Saturday, Tuesday through Saturday, 7 AM to 3, and Sunday, 7 AM to 12. Is there anyone here from that establishment? Nope, may I please have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, may I please have a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
yes,
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Councilwoman Horion.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Next item is mobile food establishment, Lemon Lane LLC, MFE 1153. Could I please have a motion to approve?
so moved,
Second.
Any discussion? May I please have a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
yes,
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Councilwoman Horion.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Solicitor, could I bundle A, B, and C under the next item?
Yes.
Under monthly schedules, I'm looking for,
You got it. Motion to bundle the monthly schedules.
So moved.
Second.
any discussion? Clerk, may I please have a vote on the bundle?
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
yes,
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Councilwoman Horion.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
May I please have a vote now to approve the schedules?
Motion to approve the block of monthly schedules.
second,
Any discussion? Clerk, may I please have a roll call?
Councilwoman Graziano.
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz.
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante.
yes,
Council Vice President Wall.
Yes.
Councilwoman Horion.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is under communications from Council President Marino. And I'm going to turn this over to the Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Horoyan. This agenda item was first heard in it may have been November, actually. I believe it was the end of November, after the fires occurred. I was looking for an update from the administration as laid out. And it reads, I'm looking for an update from the administration on the fire incident at 460 Natick Ave on November 18th and November 19th, 2024. Cause of the fire, fire prevention for the future, specific land and business uses at that location, and status of inspections. I did not hear anything from the administration despite reach out. I followed up, and then I last heard from the administration with a conversation with Director Moretti in mid-January at my request. He had indicated at that time that he had not heard back from inspections and was going to follow up with that department. I have not heard anything since. Solicitor Verdecchia.
Thank you, Madam President. So I can certainly, I can shed a little bit of light, hopefully, on the second half of the inquiries you have here listed under communications. I can't comment on the things such as the cause of the fire, fire prevention, so on and so forth. Obviously, that's going to come from and through the fire department. But what I did do was I went down to inspections. I actually met with all three inspectors. I met with Director Rodeo, I met with Inspector Ialongo and Inspector Pikel, just to try and get some type of idea of the history of this particular establishment. What I can tell you is that the business is located in an A8 zone. An A8 zone is, I'm sure most of you are familiar, just is a single-family residential type zone of 8,000, requiring 8,000 square foot lots, I should say. I looked under the table of uses, specifically nurseries, landscaping are not allowed uses in that zone, but there is a huge caveat with that. And the caveat is that this particular business apparently, and most of this, quite frankly, is anecdotal, has been in operation in excess of 40 years or so. So if that is true, and I have not been able to independently verify that, but if it's true, accepting that is true, they would constitute a prior non-conforming use. They would be allowed to operate. As best as I can determine, it appears that the city revamped its zoning ordinances. I want to say it was after the year 2000, I believe. So if they were in fact in business prior to that, they certainly would be entitled to operate as a nursery or a landscaping service. The other, I did ask too about whether or not there had been any inspections conducted recently and whether or not any complaints had been received. I was informed by all three inspectors, or two inspectors and Director Rodeo, that there have not been any recent inspections conducted down there. He did seem to indicate that they may want to take a look and go down and conduct an inspection. That would be obviously up to, you know, either Director Moretti or through the mayor's office to give them that direction. The other thing I was able to determine in terms of licensing, the only license I'm aware of that they're required to have is a state license, which is called a nurseryman's license. It's under Title II of the general laws. And it's basically allows the operator to operate a nursery and to make sales. I do not know whether or not they have that state license. The director seemed to feel that they did. It's issued through DEM. I think it's $50 to get the license. I would be shocked if they didn't have it. But as far as I know, there is no other license that they're required to have. To further complicate matters, you also have the Right to Farm Act, which is hovering out there, which may or may not have application to their particular business activities. So that's where we stand. I hope it's at least some information. To really get down to the bottom of this is going to require extensive research. And truthfully, I don't even know if the city still possesses records that go back that far. I don't know.
Thank you, Solicitor Verdecchia. I appreciate you giving me information. However, let me be abundantly clear. The fact that one of the largest fires in the city, at least in recent times, occurred at that property, the fact that it was on the agenda previously, the fact that I had to follow up on more than one occasion to only be told inspections did not go out, and then to sit here tonight and still, well, inspections didn't go out there yet, maybe they should. You're only relaying the information. The residents and the city deserve better. I'm sure that Mr. Moyo, who's here this evening, wants to be in compliance and believes that he is. But if is not good enough, this is a waste of everyone's time and it's insulting to the public. And it's also insulting to Mr. Moyo, who's here this evening trying to be in compliance. The notion that as well that, you know, it's been in existence for 40 years, you said it yourself, it's if, nobody knows. Well, I can tell you from speaking to residents in the area, from observations myself, from living in Cranston for over 30 years, that there has been a break in operations with respect to that property, and it has not been continually operating for 40 years, and that makes a significant difference. In addition, as far as I know, there isn't one single license for that business that's being held by the city. So even if there is a legitimacy to be operating as a nursery, there should be a license, and to my knowledge, there isn't anything issued by the city. There also the question of the uses, which is why I asked that question. There is machinery, there is equipment that is being worked on. There is composting, there is processing of materials that come from outside sources to that location. This is not about farming. And as anyone knows, this tone is warranted tonight because I shouldn't even have to put it on the agenda.
If I may, Madam President, some of the points you make are very valid points in terms of the prior non-conforming use. There are various exceptions to prior non-conforming use. Some of them or at least a couple that come to mind are, as you said, if there's a break in the use, it has to be a significant break. I think it's over 1 year, something like that, which is a fact determination, as you know, being an attorney. Also, if there's an expansion of what was originally allowed. And, you know, unfortunately, I hate to sound like a lawyer, but all of these things are very fact intensive. As you know, it would really require a very detailed investigation to be done to see if these factors could be established, if they, you know, if those factors took place. It's quite an undertaking that would have to be done. And I'm not suggesting it's not worth it or it's not. I'm simply, you know, as a legal advisor, obviously, I'm not in charge of that. What I would suggest to you is if under our charter, as you know, and under separation of powers, the committee or the council cannot directly order a director of a department to go out and do something. Any requests have to go through the proper channels under the charter. It would have to go through to the mayor's office or to Director Moretti, an official request, something like that. And then where we go from there, obviously, would be up to the administration. But I can't, as I stand here tonight, there really is a complete lack of information for me to be able to give any kind of coherent legal opinion as to whether or not this is still a valid non-conforming use. If it's violations are being committed, that's for code enforcement to determine. I just do not have enough information. And as I said, I tried to at least get something to present to you tonight, but there doesn't seem to be an overabundance of information at this point.
This issue is not going to go away. So if Director Moretti's listening this evening, I would ask that he once again give it the attention that this deserves in fairness to everyone. Thank you, Councilwoman Horoyan.
I would just like to echo that with the fire. The business owner has come to every meeting, wants to be in compliance. He just wants guidance on what he has to do officially. He's more than willing to work with anyone. The neighbors have come here out of concern. Something has to be done. We're all watching the news, seeing all kinds of fires. Everyone wants to work together here. So I really agree that something needs to be done. Next item on the agenda is license approved but subject to not yet issued. And personally, I think it's very sad, a little disturbing that when I click on this, I have a whole entire page of licenses that have not paid a fee. Applicant needs to call fire, retail, one on Reservoir Ave, Rhode Island retail sales permit expired last March. Solicitor, do you have any guidance here?
Well, as I have said many times in the past, we, as a city, have very limited enforcement authority. If they don't have if they don't have the appropriate state license, I don't want to sound like it's passing the buck, but it's really up to the state to enforce that requirement, just like with tobacco sales. It's the Division of Taxation that is supposed to enforce those particular rules. Now, if they haven't paid the appropriate fees here, they're still operating a business. Again, we've been over this many times. They should not be operating. They were sent cease and desist letters. And as I said, the lack of an enforcement mechanism under our ordinances is a real handicap for the legal department, because the only alternative is to go to Superior Court. And I've done this, my boss is here tonight. We've done this in the past. We've done it once in the past. At the present time, that is probably the only viable alternative at this point, is to go to court and obtain a restraining order. And if they continue to operate, they risk significant exposure with the Superior Court in terms of fines, even potential imprisonment, contempt, things like that. Unfortunately, what we do is extremely limited by the absence of enforcement mechanisms in our ordinances.
When there's a fire inspection that's needed or state, so for the state, when they don't have a sales permit, that's up to the State Department of Taxation?
Absolutely.
And do they get a copy of these that are not in compliance, or how do they know?
That I couldn't answer. I don't know internally what their internal esoteric procedures are. I really don't know. I'm assuming they have compliance officers, the state does, because I do recall what's in the past with underage sales of tobacco and alcohol, that they would go in undercover. They would send in undercover people to do that. But I don't know the nuts and bolts of that, what they do. That's something we would have to ask them directly.
But I also want to make sure everything's safe, especially if they're serving food or alcohol. There's a new business that just opened within the last 6 months that's already out of a liquor license. All right, thank you. Yeah. Councilwoman Graziano?
Solicitor, when you go to Superior Court, you can't seek an injunction to stop operations?
Yes, that's what I said. I could get, by going to Superior Court, we can invoke the jurisdiction of the Superior Court. There's actually a mechanism under Title 45 that allows the cities and towns to approach the court for assistance in enforcing these various types of ordinances, especially the ones that affect health and safety. So yes, to answer your question, what would issue first would not be an injunction, would be a restraining order. That's more temporary in nature. I would go down and tell the court that it's basically an emergency type situation. And if the court would issue that, they would have to be served with that. They have to be placed on notice. They're also entitled to come in and to be heard. So that order would be temporary until the court could hold a full hearing and decide the merits of the matter. But that usually takes care of it.
Okay, what's it between, I never did the restraining order, I've only done an injunction.
Well, restraining order is temporary in nature. In other words, so you would approach the court and there isn't time for a full-blown hearing. So you would submit an affidavit, say, this is this situation, Judge, we can't wait a month to get a hearing. We need a court order now. But what that does is, under our system, everyone has a right to be heard. And when you get a restraining order, it's one-sided. It's called an ex parte order. It's very one-sided. The judge doesn't get to hear the other side. And that's not the way our system is supposed to work unless there's an emergency. So the restraining order, it's called the TRO, a temporary restraining order. If the court finds that, yes, the city's correct, which in this situation, in all likelihood they would, it then morphs into a permanent injunction. In other words, do not operate until you come into compliance. So I hope that explains it.
Right, and they would only go to jail if they were in contempt of that
Correct.
injunction.
That's correct.
Okay. Next, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. All those opposed, say nay.
Aye.
Starting very soon.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the February 3rd, 2025 Finance Committee meeting. At this time, I'd like to call this meeting to order. I ask the clerk, would you please call the roll?
Excuse me, Councilwoman Graziano,
Present.
Councilman Andujar,
Present.
Councilman Ritz,
Present.
Councilman Trafficante,
Present.
Councilwoman Horayan,
Present.
Council Vice President Wall,
Here.
Council President Marino.
Present.
The next item of business will be the approval of minutes. At this time, I'll looking for a motion to approve the minutes from the January 13th, 2025 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? There being none, clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Next item, looking for a motion to approve the minutes of the January 27th, 2025 special meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion to approve minutes?
Is
Second.
there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, please? There being none, clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan, Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Next item would be public comment. At this time, if anyone would like to make public comment on docketed matters, please step up to the podium. I would need your name and address for the record, and I just remind you of 4 minutes.
Excuse me. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Finance Committee. For the record, Robert Murray, 75 Debbie Drive in Cranston. And I'm here tonight to speak on your 2 docketed items. First, I did speak at the council meeting in January on Mr. Angel's contract, and I'll stand by those comments. Just want to add a couple other thoughts that I've had in the last couple of days, just for your consideration. First of all, I think it's good that the contract is before the council for you to vote on. I know in January of 2023, the contract was signed without council approval. It was later submitted for the record later in January. But the one thing I want to bring to your attention is that the term of the agreement that's before you on the agenda goes from January 4th to 2027 to January of 2025 to January of 2027. I would distinguish that from Mr. Lima's contract that goes from January to December of 2026. I'm not saying this would happen, but if the date remains January 2027, you theoretically, if you engage Mr. Angel, you would pay him an additional 25th payment. He could argue that he was employed for that at least 4 days if he's not reappointed in January of 2027. I don't know if that was intended, but I bring that to your attention. The 3 biggest issues I have is first, the agreement is not subject to appropriation, and I think it should be. If it's not subject to appropriation by the council through the budget process, then you could be locked into the payments regardless. The supermajority issue to remove Mr. Angel requiring a supermajority vote where you only need a majority vote to appoint him. That was in the 2023 agreement. I subsequently got a copy of that after the January meeting. And lastly, very minor point, under this, if you get into a situation where the council needs outside attorney, wants to bring in, Mr. Angel wants to bring in an outside attorney on an hourly basis, where you get into that conflict situation with the administration, it appears to be his sole discretion who's brought in. I think that should be the council's decision. So those are my comments on Mr. Angel's contract. I love Tom Lima, but I need to offer a couple thoughts for your consideration. First, in section 3.01 of the contract, the term starts January of 2023, which would go back the 2 previous years when 5 of the members of this council went out on the council. I don't know if that was a typo, but I would think it should start in January of 2025. I don't know who prepared Mr. Lima's contract. It's 15 pages. It's thorough. It's more than comprehensive. I'm not sure it's in the best interest of the city. It seems to be tipped heavily in favor of Mr. Lima and his rights. We have bargaining units in the city that don't have some of the provisions in this contract. It goes through, he has the right to mediation, the right to arbitration, and then still seek equitable relief of the court. It's just for a at-will employee who works just several hours a month. It's a bit extensive for me, but I think he does a great job. I love Tom Lima, but I just offer those thoughts for you. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in chamber who would like to make public comment on docketed matters only? There being none, is there anyone online who would like to make public comment on docketed matters only?
There is no public comment online.
Okay, thank you, Tom. At this time, I'm going to close public comment. Our next item of business are new matters before the committee. We're going to go all the way down because there's nothing until we get to, if I'm not mistaken, until we get to letter H. Letter H would be Tax Assessment Board of Review assessed on December 31st, 2023. That item is not for a vote, but it was in your packet, members of the committee, for your review. The next item before the committee would be the consideration and approval of the agreement between the Cranston City Council and Thomas Lima to provide certain media-related services for the term of January the 6th, 2025 through December 31st, 2026. I spoke to Mr. Lima. He is available to make comment prior. Mr. Angel, will you be making comment for Mr. Lima?
Yes, I will.
Okay. The floor is yours, Mr. Angel.
I wrote the agreement. It was written over 4 years ago at the request of Councilman Paplowskis or Council President Paplowskis. Yes, it is a very comprehensive agreement. Thank you. It's an independent contractor agreement. It's not for an employee. This man is not an employee of the city. It was never intended to be that way. This is very typical of independent contractor agreements when they're properly drafted. Thank you.
Very good. At this time, I'll be looking for a motion to approve. Is there a motion to approve? You'd be right. Solicitor, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, Madam President, Mr. Angel, I speak on behalf of the administration and behalf of the city. While I don't dispute that the contract is of an independent contractor, I must make some notes to the committee on this. And this is, I want to make it clear, this is not about Mr. Lima, and I'm sure he's very uncomfortable sitting here. This is not about him, okay? This contract basically makes any individual, and this so happens to be Mr. Lima under Section 3, bulletproof. Every employee of the city who's not a member of a union is at will. Mr. Lima would be no different, okay, whether he's treated as a W-9 or otherwise. The terms of the contract, specifically going back 2 years on the contract in the first line, assuming that to be corrected, that should be 2025. This city would be entering into a contract for someone that they cannot terminate unless Mr. Lima dies or becomes incapacitated. And I don't know if the council has recognized that or acknowledged that. There is no method to remove Mr. Lima from this contract. Now, certainly he does a good job and I don't begrudge him, and I hope he's here in 2 years, as I hope I am here in 2 years. That being said, the members of my office are at will. This contract provides that Mr. Lima should be paid $20 an hour. I don't care if that was $20 or $100 per hour. What he is entitled to is what is he entitled to. That is separate and apart. However, this committee should be very well aware that there is a budget line item for this service. That budget line item was $17,000 a year for the last 4 or 5 years. It was through the use of ARPA funds in the last budget was increased by $15,000 to $32,000 a year. Now, obviously, every member of this committee would recognize that that is not going to happen in the next budget year. There's no more ARPA funds. What that line item is the line item. However, according to that contract, there is no limit on the amount that Mr. Lima or anyone sitting in his position can earn. If he is to go over budget, this contract was approved, this committee would be committing the city of Cranston to funds that it does not have. To be quite clear, the council has what's limited into its budget under 5, whatever it is, chapter 5 of the budget. In this particular case, in this particular budget year, up till June 30th, you have $32,000 a year. Come next year, I have no idea what that is. That's for the future, okay? But there is nothing written into that contract which limits Mr. Lima or anyone else sitting in his said position to go over or above $32,000 a year. That is a problem. In addition to the comments that were made by Mr. Murray on behalf of the public, but any employee has to be at will. It's awful to say that, but that is what it is. If this council decides next week that an individual is not doing their appropriate job, they have to be fired. They are not entitled to a 2-year contract, which is what is written there. And they certainly wouldn't be entitled to any funds over and above what's listed in the budget. So based on all of that, I am letting every member of the council know who's sitting here, okay? I will not approve this contract as to form. Under 8.02 of the charter, city solicitor has to approve every contract which the city has an interest in. I have an interest in this on behalf of the city. I will not approve this as to form. So if the committee wants to hold on to this matter to discuss it, I'd be happy to sit down and discuss it with every member, whether it be individually or as a group. But I will not approve this as the form. So it will not be a valid contract as far as the city is concerned. So I want the committee to know that. That is not something that I take lightly, but I will not approve it. I did not write the contract. As Mr. Angel just acknowledged, he wrote the contract. So therefore, I must approve it as the form. This committee does not need, the council does not need the authority of the mayor. I'll concede that. But you need the authority of the solicitor's office, and I will not grant that as it's written in its current form, because it very well could tie the hands of the city for another 2 years. And again, I want to be clear, I'm not pointing at Mr. Lima. Should Mr. Lima be fired tomorrow, according to that contract, the city's entitled to pay him for the next 2 years. That's their contract. So I will not approve it. And I'm making that clear. Yes.
Did Mr. Lima have the same exact contract 2 years ago, but a different solicitor?
I've never seen a contract as far as it appears on the calendar. I've never approved it to form. I'm looking at it going forward. All right, what was done in past councils, so be it. I'm exercising what the powers are under the charter, Councilman Haroyan, and I will not. It sets a bad precedent. We are setting the city up for a contract. This isn't something this is a promise. If Mr. Lima would be fired tomorrow, he would go forward to Superior Court and say, I have a contract right here. It's been signed. It hasn't been approved. It will not be approved. So I highly recommend that we table the matter and we can sit and have a discussion about it. I'm not saying that Mr. Lima needs to be replaced. I'm not even suggesting that his term of pay is out of scale, none of that. But the terms of Mr. Lima's payment, the terms of his employment, the terms of his being terminated by the city or by the council as a contract attorney, and the cap, what I find to be the ultimate problem is the cap is not listed anywhere in there, and that is the line item within the budget of $17,000. Strike that. This particular fiscal year, it's 32,000. I'll be clear, but in the past few years, that line item is $32,000. This year is 32. Past few years been 17. Excuse me. I don't anticipate him going over that at $20 an hour. I don't. But should that happen, you'd be trying to tie the city to some money that you, as the council, do not have in the budget. And this is certainly a discussion for April and the next fiscal year, obviously. But I highly suggest that you guys table it and it be held in discussion, even if it's in executive session. Thank you.
I do, but I'd be a lot more comfortable in an executive session. I don't even know if I can ask this publicly, like, does anyone know what Mr. Lima made last year? Because at $20 an hour.
Point of order. There's no mechanism to hear this contract in executive session. It's not a collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah. And do we know what he makes a year about?
Yes, Council President.
I'll make a few comments and address them as well. I find it disappointing, to say the least, that Mr. Lima's contract and Attorney Angel's contract, but these contracts, this is the third go-round. These were already in existence in January 21. They went in existence January 23. And we had the same solicitor in January 21 as we had in January 23. And here we are in January 25, and we are now all of a sudden, I just find the timing peculiar that the contract is being called into question when that was never the case previously. In addition to that, it would behoove the solicitor, to say the least, to come forward this evening, having known about this issue, with a change to make it work, rather than just appear this evening and say, we can't do this. That will stymie the city's ability to service the public. The public is in a resounding way in favor of the ability to transmit this. And in terms of the cost of the city, Mr. Lima has been well under budget in his monthly invoices, and it has been a very nominal amount. You're talking less than $12,000 a year, and it may very well be less than $10,000 a year. So I will be in favor of this contract this evening. And I thank you to the chair.
Mr. Chair.
I'm going to take, Mr. Trafficante, I'm going to take Councilman Andahar and then you.
By all means, Councilman Trafficani.
Mr. Malay, are you telling us if the contract is approved tonight, you will declare it null and void?
Yes. Now, let me clarify what I'm saying. Does Mr. Lima stop working? No. Does Mr. Lima stop getting paid what he's being paid? No. Okay. He will just be operating without a contract. I will suggest, Councilman Trafficani, that the first time I saw this was on Friday. And I've made my issues with these two contracts known since Friday. This isn't something on a whim. To rebut what you just said, Council President. This came to me on Friday. Prior to being posted on Friday, neither of these contracts were brought before my desk or sent to me by email and suggested that I approve the contracts or review them or ask if it was okay in the city's view. I think lost in this conversation, Chairman, strike that, Councilman Trafficante and Chairman, as I see Chairman Wall, no disrespect, that I am the attorney for the council. Under the charter, I am the attorney for the council. And this was something that was presented and placed on the calendar without my knowledge. This is not something that I'm all being, but this is a contract that affects the city of Cranston and the taxpayers. And based on that, I have the authority. It's one of the few places I do. I have the authority to express my opinion and offer whether or not I approve of it. And I don't, because you know what? We can do what ifs. What if Mr. Lima works the next 40 hours for the next 30 weeks and he's over budget? Who pays that bill? The council does not have that money in their budget. It's as simple as that. The taxpayers don't have the money in the budget. This is not a flex. This is, I'm telling you that I don't approve it. And should something happen and should someone try to sue, it's going to be a major problem for a major hurdle for the plaintiff to get over when the council, strike that, when the city has not approved of this contract. It does not need the mayor's approval. I'm being clear under the charter. But it does need the approval of the solicitor's office. And you're not getting it on this contract or the next one. And I'm not, this is not a flex. This is not a show of power. This is what's in the interest, best interest of the taxpayers of the city of Cranston. And go ahead, Councilman.
All due respect, Mr. Solicitor, I'll call who's going to speak next, all right? Are you done speaking, Mr. Solicitor?
Yes, Chairman.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Trafficante, you
Yeah, make sure I understand this. This contract, the same contract was approved in 21, it was approved in 23, and the same contract is now coming before us in 25. Was there an objection in 21? Was there an objection in 23? And was the contract declared null and void in 21 and 23?
Councilman, my review of the minutes was that it was simply presented to the council as approval of contract, period, end stop. Both years, 21, 23. This was not a collective bargaining agreement. This was never asked for review. And this is the first time that I've seen the contract, again, on Friday. And I reviewed it and didn't see anywhere where it was approved as to form of the contract. Now, whether or not it was done in 23 or 21 or 19 or 17, so be it. The charter is the charter. And the charter is the law of the city. So I'm expressing that I have problems with this. I'm not suggesting that either Mr. Lima or Mr. Angel should be replaced. That is not what I'm saying. I am not suggesting that they shouldn't continue to collect the fee that they're collecting. I'm addressing the individual parts of the contract. And as it pertains solely to Mr. Lima, because that's the discussion right now, I don't object to him collecting $20 an hour. What I'm suggesting, though, is that you are attempting to put your signature on a contract for a 2-year period with no outs. And that contract is based on $20 an hour. And the budget does change every fiscal year. So as of July 1st, that could be 34,000, 38,000, or it could be back to 17,000 next year. Now, I don't know if Mr. Lima is going over. I don't know. What I'm suggesting to you and telling you is that if he goes over, the money is not there in the budget, and there's no safety valve in that contract to cover the city of Cranston. So based on that, I will not approve the contract. That's it. It's not based on Mr. Lima. It's not based on the job he does. It's not based on the hourly rate. It's based on what that contract is attempting to do and tying the city of Cranston and the potential of a lawsuit that, in fairness, if approved as is, Mr. Lima could get paid for the next 2 years if he was fired tomorrow. That's my problem with it.
Thank you, Solicitor. I know you've been waiting some time, Councilman.
Mr. Solicitor, if you could come back, I have a few questions for you. So if we were to approve this today in committee, it still goes to the full council, correct?
Yes, this is just the committee. Yes, yes,
And
Councilman.
then the whole council gets to voice their opinion?
Correct. I mean, and I say this respectfully, obviously the whole council's here, but this is just a committee meeting. Yes.
I'm good.
Mr. Councilman Ritz.
I just had a few comments here. You know, being new to this seat and trying to do the best things for the city. Here in the comments tonight, I am in favor of holding this just so I can understand it a little bit more and try to make the best decision. I'm not saying it's right, not saying it's wrong, but I think it makes sense to hold this with other new council people to try and understand this, not just for Tom, as many have said, no offense to Tom, but I think just so we understand it going forward, how this could be and how it can affect future employees' contracts too. So I just want to share that comment.
Councilman Ritz. Councilman Bernard.
Thank you. I'm not a member of this committee, but I'm going to exercise my option to speak at this point. It's either going to be now or in the full council meeting. Might as well get out of the way now. I have questions. And my questions are, number one, isn't this the place now to meter this out, to get this resolved? So we leave this meeting and the next meeting with a result. Is that fair to say? Can somebody answer me that? I don't know if I should ask Mr. Angel. I don't know if I should ask Mr. Malay. I don't know if I should ask Madam President. Wouldn't this be the forum to figure this out at this point? I defer to Madam President through the chair.
Council President, please.
Yes, the charter requires that the solicitor review the agendas in advance and comment on those, and in some instances provide written advice to the council, which again, we have not received in 21, 23, nor here in 25 this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I mean, I don't know, and I, tend to agree with that sentiment. If it wasn't a problem under Council President Paplowskis, if it wasn't a problem under the first term for Council President Marino and that council, why is it a problem now? But I also understand that as soon as you find an error, you try to correct it. My question is, the bigger question is, if we all take a deep breath for a second, and maybe we can figure out how to fix it instead of arguing about whether or not, as it's written, it's going to be approved by the body and then approved by the solicitor. I heard a couple of cogent arguments from both, public comment, Mr. Murray and Mr. Malay, addressing very specific issues about this contract that probably take up 3 or 4 lines of copy over and among 30-ish pages. Is this, so my question is, do we talk about that now? Can we talk about, can I make suggestions now? Is that, okay. So we're talking about Mr. Lima's contract. And if you look at Mr. Lima's contract, I think most of the questions that have been brought up are about section 3.02, termination. Right? I think that's a fair argument. So is it possible, and I can't make this motion as I'm not on the committee, so I asked one of my colleagues if they think it's a good motion to do, but may I suggest that we add, upon a vote of, say, at least 6-3, you know, Mr. Lima can be removed for cause demonstrated by the council. Malfeasance, misfeasance, doesn't show up for work, doesn't perform well, some language to that. Is it possible to add that in here now? My second question would be, can we make it subject to our budgeted amount, which is the mayor presents his budget, we as council people can amend it, we have control over whether or not there's going to be enough money. If there's a caveat in the contract that says, you know, he's paid $20 an hour, XYZ, you know, capped at the budgeted amount, which for fiscal 25 is apparently $30-something thousand, which remains to be seen for fiscal 26. Is that possible? Through the chair, Ms. Marino's raising her hand.
Council President.
I will tell you that I can't speak to anyone's intentions, but I also can't be ignorant of what we are facing this evening. And my concern with limiting the amount that is budgeted is that then it makes Mr. Lima's position subject to political gamesmanship. And the fact that we are hearing this evening, again, for the first time, about concern about the language of that contract lends oneself to question that motive. And I point to the facts that, again, even under a Republican majority, this contract was used, was approved, same administration, same solicitor, no issue, and it has never been over budget.
If I may respond?
Yeah, but finish
I
up,
think-
because remember, you're not really on the committee.
I know. I agree with you. I just want, there's a solution here, and we don't need to dig mountains out of molehills. And if we can find out what the solution is, I think that's the issue. Okay, Mr. Chairman has asked me to shut up, so I will, and I'll finish
No,
in the full
not quite
council.
like that, but. Okay, is there any other members of the council? All right, I've already had you. I'm gonna go to Councilwoman Graziano. She hasn't had an opportunity to speak.
Thank you. I guess I'm a little bit confused. Why isn't, I mean, I do contracts. Why isn't there a standard contract for every consulting service? So that way we're not having this debate back and forth during the finance committee. Like I have all different contracts depending on, you know, what firm I'm using. Is it engineering? Is it a consulting service? Is it a contractor? Did it go out to bid? And it references that consultant's proposal that they sent to the city. And it references what they put in their proposal, but it's the city's contract. And so we're driving that contract. And then I guess I will say that Councilman Ritz, I mean, I agree a little bit. I don't really understand all of this. I haven't seen the line item budgets. 2 years does seem odd to me. I understand that you guys all did this for 4 years, but I would do a year at a time, I guess, if you were asking me and I had my druthers, that's what I would do. But my comments are like, I think we need standard contracts for the city. That way we're not fumbling around.
Thank you, Councilwoman Graziano. Before I go around one more time, I'm gonna weigh in a little bit. And is it appropriate, Attorney Angel, to ask, as the person who wrote the contract, to ask you to weigh in on this matter?
Sure.
I just had a couple.
It's a living document. You can amend the termination clause. You can amend other language in the contract. Sure you can.
My question is, I see the compensation. That's a budgetary concern that Solicitor Malay brought up. Isn't that really controlled by the council? How many times I bring Mr. Lima in to perform his duties really determines how many times how much he's gonna get paid. Is that correct?
Well, that's just it, isn't it? The mayor has line item veto. This council as it sits does not have the ability to override a veto. So something could be budgeted for zero. So, look, the reason why this position was created is very simple. It was COVID. Okay. At the time the position was created, it was thought to keep the position thereafter as a means to expand the scope of public participation. That was the intent of the position. The first year was a test run as to a guesstimate on the number of hours. And thereafter, I don't know its consistency or inconsistency in terms of budget to actual on an annual basis. That's more a question for finance. But in terms of contractual language and based on experiential history, in terms of a budget to actual, this council could put in a price not to exceed if it wanted to. You have many considerations before you. I know that, I've heard, why doesn't the city have standard form contracts? I'll address that in terms of a legal contract, which is separate and distinct from this. But in terms of an independent contractor agreement, it is a good question. It's a great question. It's one that I asked over 5 years ago. Okay, and I was instructed by Council President Paplowskis to get something in place. You have somebody in the building who's not an employee. Okay, there are certain things that an independent contractor needs to guarantee to the entity or person for whom they're providing services, so that liability does not rest at the feet of the entity or person engaging them for being in the building, for using equipment, for doing certain things. I'm not going to get into all of that, okay? But those safeguards were built in. That contract was tailor-made around the specifications given to me by a Republican majority of this council over 5 years ago. You guys can change it. You can do anything you want to do with it. You can decide to, employ him on a per diem basis, okay? But, quite frankly, if somebody is not engaged for a term to provide services on an independent contractor basis, why in the world would they show up? On the hope that they might be paid, or that they might have to fight under the contract theory of quantum merit in court to get their money? My God, we're not talking about a six-figure contract. It's a two-figure contract by hour. Those are my 2 cents. But you can change this contract. You can amend it in any fashion you see fit. Just as Mr. Lima can say that the way that it's been amended doesn't suit me and go find somebody else. And I'm not suggesting that he would do that. Okay, that's the short course in independent contractor agreements.
So I think he pretty much covered my question. I mean, he gets a certain amount of hourly wage, and there should be some protections. And may I say also, like, I might as well join. I think the job that Mr. Lima does does a wonderful job. And I would be sorry to lose him out of political whims. The second question I have is, the Solicitor Malay brought up the fact that there's no way to terminate Mr. Lima. Is that actually the case in the contract?
You can change that.
That can be changed. Council President?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve Mr. Lima's contract as amended. And my motion to amend will be that the term length provided will correct the scrivener's error so that it is the year 2025 as opposed to 2023, ending in the year 2027 throughout. And at the end of the contract, to add a provision that Mr. Lima's contract with the city council for these services is subject to termination by a supermajority vote of the council. That's my motion to amend the contract.
Is a motion to amend?
So moved.
Well, she's made the motion to amend. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? I'm gonna, discussion
Mr.
just
Malay.
on the amendment at this
Mr.
time.
Malay, you heard the amendment. You heard. Sorry, do you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Will you still declare this contract null and void with that amendment if approved?
Again, sitting here, I want to be clear, these aren't amendments that should be done orally. Someone took the time to write up 13 pages of a contract. I would like to see it in writing. Those are pretty much the terms that I'm arguing against. There's no doubt about it. I'm not hiding it. But to say that we're going to orally amend a contract on the record is not appropriate. We need to have a new contract to be reviewed with the terms that were just listed. This isn't, in my opinion, Councilman, this is not something that is of the essence, okay? Mr. Lima will be here on Thursday. He'll be here next week. So will Mr. Angel. No one's suggesting that they should go elsewhere nor not be paid while the contract is in flux. This is something that needs to be written up and reviewed properly. Now, whether or not the argument can be made, it wasn't done in 21 and 23. I'm actually just reviewing the notes from 23. I haven't been able to find anything from 23, but that's separate and apart. Let's get it right. The idea, and we hear it all the time in life, well, this has always been done this way, doesn't make it right. Let's get it right. And I'll review it. And if it's appropriate and what the body is saying, I'll approve it. But the fee, subject to the line item, a termination agreement, a time this contract starts, the contract sitting before you, Chairman, strike that, Councilman Trafficante, that contract indicates it begins in 2023. I've heard no one suggest that should be changed. All right, well, all right, then that's the thing that needs to be changed. I heard the end date. I heard those are the things. Let's continue this. You do what you want. The members of the committee have the right to do what you want. But I won't approve it. I want to see it in writing. And I will look at it, and if appropriate, I've raised my concerns. I'm not going to, I think, to address what ultimately you're saying, Councilman. I'm not going to raise a 7th-hour thing after changing 6 things and say, oh, wait a minute, the 7th thing is wrong. I've expressed to you what my problems are with this contract. Let's reduce it to writing and let me see it and review it. And I'd be happy to approve it if it's what we've talked about. Because again, it's not a big item. It's not a huge thing, but the idea that this contract could bind the city in the future is what I have a problem with.
It just, excuse me, I'm turning 86 years old tomorrow, so I'm a bit slow. It just bothers me that this contract in 21 and in 23 and 25 was the exact same contract that was approved in 21 and 23. Now we have objections to it in 25.
Councilman, may I address that?
Let me finish my thought.
I haven't seen a contract from 21 to 25, 23. I've seen this.
What you're suggesting tonight then is that no matter how many amendments are made to this particular contract tonight, your suggestion it should be tabled, and maybe perhaps you should go to work and come up with a draft of a potential resolution that we can approve at a later date. Is that what your suggestion?
Yeah, yeah, respectfully, yes. This is a contract. This isn't something that we can orally change. It's not one word. or 2 words. This is a binding contract that Mr. Lima will then have with the city of Cranston. So I think it most appropriate to simply be reduced to writing. And if that can be done by tomorrow, so be it. That's fine. If it can be done by Thursday. But like I said, this isn't a time of the essence. This isn't an emergency. This can be done and done correctly so that 2 years from now, the same argument cannot now be made, that it wasn't in place, it wasn't reviewed, it wasn't looked at. That's all I'm saying. I want to be clear. I'm not picking on anyone. I'm not picking on Mr. Lima. While I'm disagreeing, I'm not picking on the council president or any member of this committee. I want it done right, and it's simply that. We've got 15 pages, 13 to 15 pages, depending on how we look at it. Let's get it right.
This is on the amendment, just the amendment, all right? Councilwoman Haroyan.
Council Angel, I have a question. Do you still have a copy of the original?
Sure, this is it, save for the dates. If
Is
you'd like
it-
it, you can have it. I will tell you that after each of those council meetings where that contract was signed, I directed the council president to speak with the finance director to ensure that the contract was placed on file with the city as it is in fact a public document. In addition to that, I was informed, not just by this finance director, but by prior finance director, we don't have a vendor management program in this town or this city. So, you know, wherever they put them, heaven only knows. But it was directed to be sent from the council president to whomever to place on file in order that if there is an APRA request or for some other reason, that it be available, readily available as an approved public document. So they exist.
All right, if this needs to be amended, could we go into recess? I'm willing to take the copy. I will go type in the amendments and we can print one out.
That's, all right. So right now you spoke pretty much.
Procedurally, if I may, Mr. Chairman, procedurally, you can vote to amend the contract and then send the amended full contract to the floor of the council. That's how you appropriately do it. And that's generally what happens in committee. Unless, of course, there is a substantive change, which this is not a substantive change. The contract is pretty comprehensive. The term already exists. You're just amending a term of the contract. So you can vote on whatever amendment you want. The contract can be revised and it can be made available to the full council for its consideration.
Could I make a motion then for us?
There's a motion on the floor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. See, he makes sure I'm heard. Council President.
Again, with this motion to amend, I think it alleviates the concerns that were raised this evening. It continues with the continuity of services, gives Mr. Lima some assurance as well in terms of his services here with the city. You know, the time to have made these changes should have occurred before. I've made that abundantly clear, and the fact that it didn't doesn't give me great solace that they will be done in an expedient way going forward. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Enda.
Mr. Solicitor, question for you.
Yes, sir.
So, I'll make this quick. If these two contracts were to be approved today, you're not gonna sign them. So we understand that.
As written, yes.
Okay, so if you're not gonna sign them, they will be null and void, but at least the two understand that they have a job and then we could deal with this at budget season to raise it? I mean, I just wanna get this over with.
I mean, those contracts would not be enforceable, in my opinion. I'm not saying that they would not have a job nor have an income, if you will, okay? They would still be employed by the council in their respective positions. they'll be paid next week and the week after, or however they're paid. That's not the issue. The actual contract, the binding items that we've discussed as to Mr. Leamer, and I haven't gotten into, those are, and I would respectfully say, are substantive issues. I think we're breezing over the fact that this is a public forum, that this contract was placed on the Secretary of State's website and for public notice. And what we're talking about is changing these contracts, rightfully so, in my opinion. Those are substantive. I'm not sure that that's something that can be changed right now, respectfully. I think that we need to go back to the drawing board, carve up the proper agreements, and then this committee and then the council can vote on them rather than put it through for 25 minutes ago to the meeting that was posted at 7:30. These are substantive changes.
And how much time do you need to review this contract, both of these?
I mean, if they're printed up, I could review them tomorrow if they're printed up, but they are not in there, they're not in written form. So I will say this, Councilman, I know of no contract in my 4 years, at least of doing this, that we've made oral agreements on a contract and then anybody has signed it, whether it be the finance director, the mayor, myself, or I would suggest the president of the council on an oral amendment to a contract. Contracts are not done that way. And I think everybody in this room knows that. Contracts are done in written form. And they're done so that you protect the person that you are the body to, meaning the city of Cranston is a party to this contract, as is person A and person B. That's why they're written up. They're not discussed over a cup of coffee and a handshake. They are written. That needs to be done before it's properly considered before this council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Solicitor. All right, if there are no further questions, no further discussion on this matter, I'd like to vote on the amendment. Do you want to restate the amendment? I think it was clear. It was clearing up the Scribner's error and also adding the language, and please let me know that, where the heck did I put it? Excuse me a second. Subject to, can be terminated subject to vote of a supermajority. Is that correct? All right, so we know we're voting on that amendment and to correct the Scribner's error in the beginning concerning the dates. It was a 2023 and now it would read 2025. Is that correct? All right, no further discussion. Clerk, would you please call the roll on the amendment?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Now we're back. That is the motion as that is the motion has been amended. Now we're going to take a vote on the actual contract as amended. All right. I think we've done with discussion here. Council President.
If I may, through the chair, make a motion to approve the contract of Mr. Lima as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Sorry, just so I'm clear. So it's moving the amended contract to full council for vote.
No,
correct?
well, right now, we'd vote in committee and we'd go to the full council after this, yes. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar.
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes,
Council President Marino.
Yes.
so that motion passes. All right, our next item of business would be the consideration and approval of the agreement between the City of Cranston and Angel Law LLC, Stephen J. Angel Esquire, for the engagement as council attorney and litigation counsel for the city council for the term beginning January 6, 2025 and ending January 1st, 2027. This was Right. Solicitor, would you like to speak on this?
Yes.
Solicitor Malay, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, I raised the same concerns as far as contractually. These are contracts that affect the city of Cranston that require my approval as to form. I don't think anyone here is suggesting that Mr. Angel will go away. I don't think anyone's suggesting that Mr. Angel shouldn't be the council attorney. The contract as written is not acceptable to the city. This council has a $42,000 line item for legal counsel. Period, end stop. Mr. Angel can write into his contract, first of all, anything he wants if it's accepted on the other side, because contract law is offering acceptance, okay? The body, whether it be through the council president or the entire body, has zero authority to authorize Mr. Angel to receive payment over $42,000 a year, whether it be for work he does after work tonight at 10 o'clock, Tuesday morning, or a Saturday afternoon if the council asked him to do that work. I'm not suggesting by any stretch of the imagination that his work is not entitled to be compensated. When Mr. Angel took this job on the council as legal counsel, he accepted a flat fee, $42,000 a year. Just like I accept a flat fee working as solicitor for the city of Cranston. If I'm called at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning or 11:30 on a Sunday morning and I do 3 hours worth of work, I am not compensated on an hourly basis. There is a flat fee. Problematic to the council and to this contract is that there is no line item in the council's budget that can pay for that. So unless and until that changes, this council, however you vote, cannot tie the hands of the city of Cranston and the people of the city of Cranston to pay anyone over and above what's in this budget. It's illegal. It's not a valid contract. It is not a valid contract. And just to rebut, in 2023, in the minutes, this contract that was submitted by Mr. Angel was never voted upon nor negotiated. It was approved on a oral vote to be the council attorney. The problem, if you will, arose last year in which the administration had to sue the council, and not to get into the minutia, but Mr. Angel was asked to cover certain things that were not part of being in this room. And that's the basis for that part of the contract where he talks about an hourly rate. There is no way for this council to approve that. You can vote on it and you can approve it. I will not approve it as the form. You do not have a line item for this. If that changes, and I'm not suggesting it shouldn't change, nor am I suggesting it won't change. But as the contract is written, it calls for a flat fee of $3,500 plus extras, and I'll keep it basic. That adds up to $42,000 a year, which is the line item. If that line item in the budget was amended to $48,000 next year, would Mr. Angel be entitled to the difference? Well, according to his contract, he's entitled to $3,500 a month. So no. If his contract, or should the line item be reduced by the same amount, would he be entitled to $3,500 a month? The answer is yes, as the contract is written, if you approve it. The contract needs to specifically be tied into the line item of the legal counsel budget. And that's a period end stop. Whether that's 42, 102, what, 2,000. That is what's provided in the budget for the council, the legal counsel. There's no extra room to maneuver in that. And the budget, as we've discussed, comes from the executive branch, and you, as a group, as a legislative group, separation of powers, as was discussed earlier, you get to move that money any way you want, subject to the vote. But once it's voted upon, you're locked into what's in that budget. So until June 30th, that budget is $42,000 a year. I don't care that we're going off and saying that this is contract is January 6th or January of this year. You are locked into the budget until June 30th. And should that change, the contract can change. So the contract would need to have an end stop of June 30th, and then can be rediscussed. It's somewhat of a problem bringing some, not that Mr. Angel, he's been here, but bringing a contract in 6 months before a fiscal year is about to end. It's a problem. And again, it's not about Mr. Lima or Mr. Angel. It's about the budget. You don't have the authority legally. You have the authority to issue what's there in your budget. And then after that, so because the strike that, because the contract does not address that issue, I will not approve it. I will not approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Solicitor Malay. Attorney Angel, would you like to speak on the contract? Present it for us. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd love to speak. This is the fourth contract I've presented to this council. Fourth. This particular contract mirrors the one that was provided to the council in June of '24. Okay, with some modification. Part of that modification is we update our fee agreements regularly with respect to all classes of clients. Councils are no different, public bodies are no different. When I came here as legal counsel to the city council, a term of art that is defined in your charter, a position that is yours to appoint and to employ, not as an employee, but to employ. These positions were created in charters for conflicts that occur between the executive and the legislative branch. One of those conflicts occurred this past June following the budget season. There was a lawsuit filed by the administration with respect to the basis that the council was able to take action during the budget relative to the expenditure of ARPA funds. The council had no mechanism, contractually or otherwise, at that time to engage outside counsel. They just didn't. Council president contacted me and said, "We've been sued." I said, "That's charming. I cannot represent you until I'm engaged. I'm here essentially as legislative counsel. Hold everything." I contacted opposing counsel in the case and said, "Most likely I'll be entering my appearance. However, I'm not engaged yet." And I was engaged by this council. And at that time, on June 11th, 2024, this agreement was essentially approved, the exact agreement, with the exception of one thing. In the first paragraph, it talked about the specific litigation, PC 202403991. This particular agreement talks about, as litigation counsel to the council, in connection with any litigation matter in which the interests of the executive branch of city government with any litigation in which the interests of the executive branch diverge from that of the city council's interest, as determined by a majority vote of the council. This council would need to meet and vote. But it does give me the authority, at least in the interim, to interact with a lawyer on the other side who may be the proponent of some measure of equitable relief in the form of a temporary restraining order that requires the council to be represented the next day. That's all this does. That's the fundamental difference. And I'm going to walk through this agreement with you because it's worth walking you through it. It's also worth noting, by the way, that you have a right to counsel as a legislative body. And you have a right to engage counsel. And you have the right, and I have the right as a party to that relationship, not to be interfered with contractually or tortiously. That's just flat out wrong, and it's actionable. Plain and simple. I don't care what your charter says. The Supreme Court of the state of Rhode Island says different. And the Supreme Court of the state of Rhode Island, by the way, how many people here work in a regulated industry or have worked in a regulated industry? You've been in construction. You work in the environment, regulated, right? Regulated, regulated. Guess what? Lawyers are regulated too. We're regulated in Rhode Island by the state Supreme Court. They've sanctioned the Office of Disciplinary Counsel to enforce the rules of professional conduct. The rules of professional conduct are our regulations. State law trumps your charter all day long, just as it trumps your ordinance. So let's talk about the rules of professional conduct. Let's talk about the regulations in my industry. A lawyer should demonstrate respect for the legal system and those who serve it. It's an interesting comment. Let's look at the scope of the rules. Supreme Court is clear. Some of these rules are imperatives. They are a must. And when they are cast in terms such as shall or shall not, these define proper conduct for the purposes of professional discipline. I've never been disciplined, and I won't be because I failed to provide a contract to my client. Failure to comply with an obligation or prohibition imposed by a rule is the basis for invoking the disciplinary process. The purposes of these rules can be subverted when they are invoked by opposing parties as should not be subverted when they are invoked by opposing parties as procedural weapons. I'm reading from the rules. Terminology. The word writing is defined. Why is that important? We'll talk about that. Because your letter of engagement is a writing. And they don't care about whether or not Mr. Millay likes the form. The state Supreme Court, well over 35 years ago, turned to the Rhode Island Bar Association and asked them to put together a form contract and a form letter of engagement that's consistent with the rules of professional conduct. If you look it up, you will find that it is remarkably similar to the document that is in front of you. And the rules give me the right to build that out any way I so choose, as long as it is agreeable to the client. So to be told that the form is wrong His argument isn't in his building. He belongs on the 7th floor at 250 Benefit Street. He can talk to the 7 justices if he doesn't like the form. A lawyer shall communicate to the client in writing the scope of his or her representation. It's a rule. It's a disciplinary rule. I've heard a lot of crap about interest in fee agreements, because that's what it is. It's crap. Let's talk about that. Part of the arm of the state Supreme Court is an ethics advisory board. It's who lawyers write to when they think they have an ethical quandary of some kind, or they want an answer to a question that isn't sitting before disciplinary counsel. That board in 1992 issued an opinion that says an attorney may charge interest on unpaid legal bills in the absence of a prior agreement. Well, I build it into the agreement, so there's no misunderstanding. The Supreme Court is clear. They don't like misunderstandings. That's why it's there. It's not there because I thought about it at 2 in the morning and had nothing better to do. It's because I'm thorough. It's just that simple. And that may sound arrogant, but I hit where I aim as a lawyer. Did you want to hire one that doesn't? I could give you a few names when the meeting's over. I'm not going to go through all the rules. I'm doing my job and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. This is a new counsel. You are a new client. That's why you have a new agreement. Let's go through the agreement. I'm not going to bore you with the rules. And by the way, Mr. Murray spoke here tonight. He spoke here before. Okay? I can only speculate on what his issues are. Okay? But I will tell you, he does have the benefit of my contract in Coventry, because after last Monday night's meeting, he went through the trouble of obtaining it through the Access to Public Records Act. Must have been a slow week. Okay? So let's go through the letter of engagement. I've gone through paragraph 1 with you. You are my client, each and every single one of you, and you as a body. I represent to you that I have no conflict of interest, and I'm skimming through this because you've had the opportunity to read it. I am an independent contractor. I'm not an employee. I do have professional liability coverage sufficient enough to cover the engagement. In fact, I will tell you that as someone who sat as the chair of the Insurance Services Committee for 9 years for the Bar Association, I can tell you that less than half of the lawyers barred in Rhode Island carry insurance because it's not mandatory, it's not required, nor are minimums. Oh, speaking of minimums, half of the half, they carry the minimum. Anybody want to guess what the minimum is? 100, 300,000. I'm well into the 7 figures. I'd be in the minority. And for a firm my size, well into the minority. Scope of the engagement is defined for you. There are 2 pieces to the engagement. One is a flat fee, one is hourly. The hourly only kicks in on majority vote, only for conflicts and for adjudicatory litigation type purposes. That's plain and simple. By the way, that's not in legalese, it's in English. I learned that in the 9th grade. Thank you, Ms. Needs. And by the way, the question isn't whether or not, why does Stephen Angel want a contract with the city of Cranston that's conformant with the rules of professional responsibility? The real question is, does every other lawyer who works for this city have the same? And have you requested it? It's a public document. You should have it. There are lawyers who have stood before you at that podium in recent years and told you that they work for the city and that they do work for the city. Their names have never shown up on a legal expense report. Never. That's something that ought to be evaluated. I've never called for it publicly, and I think you ought to look at it. Frankly, I think you have a responsibility, as long as I stand here as your lawyer, I think you do have a responsibility to correlate the two. And I think you have a right to know what their limits of liability are for insurance. They're handling matters for you. Are they adequately insured? This city is self-insured. You're exposed. Clients' rights and responsibilities. It's an addendum to my scope, to my letter of engagement. I didn't dream it up. Supreme Court did, Bar Association did, and it's required. Termination of the agreement. We've heard a lot about supermajority. I have this in all of my public body agreements. The political flag blows stronger than it ever has. I've worked for Republican councils. I worked for a Republican council that became a Democratic council, and now it's a Democratic council. And it's always been a thin majority. I gave an example one evening, not here, about a particular matter that I inherited. High stakes. The matter was nowhere when I took over. Wasn't really given a time limit to solve it, but time was of the essence. You got to win the game. If that council decided that they wanted to replace me because they didn't like the pace of that litigation, a simple majority would have done it. It takes a lot for a client to stay in the saddle when you're dealing with one or two people. It's almost unheard of when you're dealing with larger groups, particularly public bodies. That's why the supermajority is there. It's to ensure stability. I'm not interested in working for a group that's not interested in working with me. I don't need the money that bad, plain and simple, okay? But that's why it's there. It's about stability. You can read about post-engagement matters. You can read about file retention. Okay. Page 4 talks about what the flat fee scope is. Yeah, let's talk about that. First of all, it doesn't say I can go home at 2 in the morning and build a shit out of the city. That's not what it says. Okay? It's not what it says. It's in English. It's not what it says. That's just flat wrong. So let's talk about the flat fee. Oh, and by the way, I didn't just make 42 grand last year. You guys got sued. City got billed, and I got paid under the terms of the agreement that was passed on June 11th, 2024. Unless you want me to work in Quantum Merowit without a contract and do that hourly conflict work for you at $450 an hour. My accountant would love that, and so would my broker. But I don't do that. I charge public bodies differently. That's in the paragraph on fees. And there is a typo here, and I apologize. The blended rates ordinarily, they should have changed them, are not 400 and 175. They're 450 and 185. Okay? That's a typo. I caught it, not anybody else in this room. I did it. I self-report. But it's still only $225 an hour if we litigate. Cost and expenses. Yeah, you're going to pay the cost and expenses of litigation. Everybody does. Every client does. And by the way, that's all laid out there for you as to what it is. Payments and the responsibility for payment. Yup. If they don't pay my bill, the city gets charged 1.5% per month, compounded. That's how it works with all my clients. They usually pay their bills. Has this city been late? Yup, has been. And I've never moved to enforce that provision, nor would I, unless I was compelled to. Honest errors, I have no problem with that. It's an interesting line here that talks about ACH debit and electronic funds transfers. I have a question. Why the hell, if this city is so interested in saving money, do we still invest in envelopes and stamps and checks and check signatures? You know how much money there is in postage and envelopes? You'd be stunned. Just saying. No, I'm not going to sit silent anymore and listen to the nonsense. I'm done with the sound of one hand clapping. You have a right to hire your own lawyer. You have a right to a contract with your lawyer in the form of a letter of engagement approved in form and substance by the state Supreme Court, by the Rhode Island Bar Association, and between you and I as your lawyer and my client, free of interference from anybody on the outside. Oh, and by the way, why do I want to put $3,500 in here? Well, it's simple. That could be a zero line item in your budget in April, as proposed starting the next fiscal year. You have no ability to change that, period. You have no ability to change that. And I'm not working for nothing. It's that simple. It's not going to go up. I don't expect it to. And by the way, we have fleshed out for you just what you get for your flat fee. Yes, I sound aggravated. This is ridiculous. My presenting to you is not ridiculous. The reasons for it are. This agreement is in English. It's based in the law, and the law is a requirement promulgated by the state Supreme Court, by the General Assembly, and by regulations approved by State Disciplinary Council. And they don't give a damn what Solicitor Millet thinks about the form and substance of the letter of engagement. And frankly, neither do I. It's not his business. He can make whatever sort of comment he wants to make about an independent contractor agreement that he didn't write. He can write the next one. That's different. This is the engagement of a lawyer. Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to take questions from the committee.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Attorney Angel. I'm going to take questions first. I'm going to go right around the loop, just to make sure everybody gets a shot. Councilman Trafficante.
I know I sound like a broken record, Mr. Angel, but
Happy birthday, by the way.
thank you. It concerns me and bothers me that this same contract was it- the same-
Councilman York.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me okay? But it bothers me. What bothers me further is that it's quite obvious tonight that no matter how many amendments are made, and let's assume they're all approved, this contract will be declared null and void. This is what bothers me. And where does that leave you? Where does that leave Mr. Lima? And where does that leave Mr. Council?
Couple of things. Bear with me because there's a few issues. First of all, I take the position If Mr. Malay, I don't care if Christ Almighty came down and found it in the Dead Sea Scrolls, or it was in the Magna Carta, or in the Rhode Island Constitution, he has no right to declare a contract between a lawyer and his client null and void. Good luck with that. Okay? That's number one. Number two, with respect to, and where does that leave me if they decide not to pay me? That's fine. We'll sue them. We'll sue them. And the city will pay. And I'll still do your work. With respect to Mr. Lima, Mr. Lima has his own rights with respect to that proposed contract. It's a proposal. I would prefer not to speak about those rights in public because prospectively it could give rise to litigation because he does have rights, as does the council. It's not unusual for independent contractors to have a contract. It's not unusual at all. I mean, there really isn't anybody other than, you know, certain administrative officials that don't have a contract. Where does it leave you? I think you're left to imagine why you're being left. Where does it leave you? Well, if you get sued and the council votes by majority retain me, I'll be in court. You're not going to be without advice. I've done this job as legislative counsel or legal counsel to the city council now since the appointment in January of 21. Mayor, I don't know if you recall, but I was sent here by the governor and the Auditor General in 2003 when the city only had $7 million left in the bank as chair of the Financial Review Board. I worked for free. I've gotten to know your city pretty well. I'm not going to speculate on the motivations of what I've heard here tonight and what I saw last Monday. I have my own thoughts on that. I'll hold on to that for a while. But you've been around a long time. And you have as much or more experience in government than most. And I think you're free to appraise the motivations of those who would leave you without counsel and who would rob the public of an opportunity to broadcast a meeting. And I also think that as a council person, you're free to do something about that.
Councilwoman Graziano.
So I'll just say, it sounds like there does need to be an amendment for the, and I could be wrong, but it was supposed to be 400, it's supposed to be 450. And then it said it was 175, it's supposed to be 185. So it sounds like just making a note that there needs to be an amendment.
I'll send you a new page for the contract.
And then I'll just say out loud that I don't think this should be this difficult. I think we should be able to make easy determinations on contracts. I've never seen this before. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Ritz.
I just had a question on, it's page 5 of the printed document. It might be for Director Zealous, just on the payments. It says the payment of any invoice is due upon receipt. Any amount that is not paid within 14 days of the invoice date will incur a late charge on the 15th day of 1.5% of the outstanding amount, compounded every 30 days thereafter. And I know, Solicitor Angel, you said you haven't enforced yet, but I just think from the city's point of view, I don't know if it's feasible to pay
They
that
pay
bill that
like
quickly.
clockwork.
Okay.
Director Zadelis, since he's taken control of that finance department, you can set your watch by the 14th day. And I've never moved to enforce anything on the 15th, 16th, or the 30th day. Usually it's been a phone call and Tom's kind enough to say, Steve, I had to go to Florida. No problem. I only know about it, frankly, Councilman Ritz, because my bookkeeper calendars these things. and she'll say to me, this one's usually coming in on this day. We haven't seen anything. You want to pick up the phone? I don't make a lot of those calls, but it's always a good call to Tom because when I call, he's like, yep, no problem. It's on its way.
Would you be open, just because all the contracts I've ever seen, it's been 30 days and then the fee would kick in after 60? Could we amend that to
No.
30 days?
Nope. It's mine to forgive. That's standard bill collection. I have a lawyer who works for me who collects bills. That's what they do.
Thank you, Councilman Ritz. I'm looking down. Councilman Bonanno, you have your hand up?
I did.
Okay.
I think I had a few questions and most were addressed by Attorney Angel already. I just want to clarify one thing, because I might have missed it, might have daydreamed a little bit, sorry. The flat fee scope makes sense. The hourly scope, we would have to vote to engage you on an hourly rate for a special occasion. Is that correct?
Yeah. But what this agreement would do is give me the ability, if I had to go to court in an interim basis and say, hi, Judge, I'm here. Okay, they have to vote, but I'm here. They're not without a voice in the room.
I mean, my father's I would call him now a retired attorney. So a retired attorney who worked for this city for many years, so most of it seems fine to me. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Endo, has your hand up on? No? Councilman Capriano?
Thank you, Chairman. Attorney Angel, I just have a couple of questions. First of all, from a business point of view, I'm trying to figure, we've seen two contracts tonight and they were both from the outside source in. Is that typical that an outside vendor would craft the contract and then present it? Is
He
it
didn't
ever
craft
work
it.
together?
He didn't craft it.
Well, then the clients come forward with a contract and then is it engaged on both sides where they come to agreement, or is it always a one-sided contract? If you like it, you go with it. If you don't like it, you don't.
Well, if you like it, you go with it. If you don't like it, you don't, is what's called a contract of adhesion. That's what you sign when you go to buy a car. That's not what this is. These terms were agreed upon 5 years ago between Mr. Leamer and Mr. Paplowskis. And I essentially put everything else around it, excuse me. It's not my first independent contractor agreement. This writing is licensed to the city. There's hundreds of hours of development involved in a document of this kind that's designed to protect clients' rights. I get hired to do these things. So I brought some of that to bear for the city in lieu of anybody else stepping to the plate at that time. Time was of the essence. And that's what I was told to do, and I reacted to that. Generally speaking, I don't provide a document like that for $3,500 a month. That's not what happens. It was COVID, and I provided it to get it done. If they start from scratch, they start with their own document. They're not going to start with mine. I don't care what they do.
And I think besides the president and myself, we worked together with you the longest. And I will say that I have called Attorney Angel on a Sunday, on a holiday, and he's answered my call and helped me out. So I thank you for that. But is there anything in there that, is it just a fiduciary duty for you to be here at the council meetings, or is it, how does that work? Is there anything in the contract that ties you, obligates you to be here at a certain time, or?
I think you have to be realistic in terms of what's on the agenda. What binds an attorney to be at these meetings, your charter requires an assignment from the solicitor's office to be at every meeting of the council. That doesn't occur. It does not occur. And I have sat in those meetings. So if you're looking for me to be bound to every single special and committee meeting, the answer is no. I discussed that with the committee chairs, just like when it was a Republican council. mean, if you think I'm gonna sit here for hundreds of hours a month to talk about a leak in the Budlong pool, okay, that's not happening. Okay? That's not a legal matter, that's a political matter.
I understand. Thank you for answering the
You're
question.
welcome.
I know we said it was budgeted for $42,000 a year. And if the fees go above that and something happens, I guess this might be an answer, question for Zadelis. Where does those funds come from?
There was a chair to the counselor. The 42 is the budget amount for the $3,500. In terms of the additional fees, which did in fact occur starting the beginning of this fiscal year, the council's budget had an appropriation that was available to cover those additional fees. Specifically, we got a favorable variance in the line item for independent audit fees. So that had sufficient proceeds within the city council budget to absorb the litigation fees, which Attorney Angel, spoke to a few moments ago. So, that was a one-time occurrence because we went out to bid and got a very favorable response. Going forward next year, God willing, we don't get into a litigious experience between the administration and the council, but we would have to look at what resources the council has as we, go out if anything does occur.
Thank you, Director. That's all I have.
Which begs the question, Councilman Campopiano, of what provisions the council should make in council orders as it has made in council orders for other things. It does beg that question. Because if you think it's silly now, it's February 3rd. We're only in the first inning. So what I can tell you is that in other places that I've been, and one in particular, legal fees are a crapshoot. Even particularly in the solicitor's office. You never know when you're going to get sued. You never know what your budget's going to look like. You have best guesstimates based on usage and you try to control costs. This was that last, well, I should say this fiscal year was just sort of an odd thing, which I hope never happens again because it's divisive for your city. And in this case, it put $7.3 million at risk. So hope not to see that again. Other questions, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a question or not. I think you've answered through your deliberation. It was very thorough. Just some of the things that I've talked about. I know a bone of contention had been discussed with me, the hourly scope, and those of us who went through last year, Councilman Campopiano and the chair and Councilwoman Royan, saw that this, and I think when I spoke to the solicitor, we talked about last year's litigation as an extraordinary situation, something that hadn't been seen, not to put words in anybody's mouth. But we did engage Attorney Angel as our solicitor, and we did use the contract. When we spoke of it, looked very similar to this, a lot of those lines.
It's identical.
And just because I say it was an extraordinary situation, admittedly, it's not a situation that, given some of the political climates that we see, that is beyond the realm of possibility to happen again. And for that reason, as Attorney Angel said early on when he discussed his contract, as a city council, we do have a right to attorney, and it shouldn't be subject to political pressure. As an attorney, in my short time, in a year and a half or so on the council, I appreciate the advice and the work Attorney Angel has given to this council, and also the patience at time for some of the more probably foolish questions I know I've asked, and helped me navigate through the legalities of being a legislative body in the city. I have a high level faith in Attorney Angel. I appreciate his advice. I think what he said the other night on the 27th, I call balls and strikes right down the middle. They're not subject to red or blue. I believe that, and that's good legal advice. This council's employed him, if we can find the document or not, 21, 23, and 25. I will be in favor of passing this contract this evening. But perhaps, Council President, do you have it?
Thank you, Councilman Wall. I just want to thank Councilman Wall for giving an opportunity for obviously everyone to be heard. I want to thank Attorney Angel for his willingness to continue to serve in the capacity as a city council attorney. Frankly, the exhibition displayed this evening does call into question other people's motives. Council Attorney Angel has exhibited himself to be professional. Let us remind ourselves that he was first appointed to serve as city council attorney for the City Council of Cranston under Republican council president and under a Republican majority. And his service has continued since that time because he does not see his role, nor does he utilize his role in any way in a form of political partisanship. And many others within the legal profession can learn a lot from that. I do also want to make mention of Councilman Ritz's concern about the interest payment for late fees. The last thing I want to do is incentivize political gamesmanship from the administration to delay paying a bill. By paying it timely, it incentivizes the administration to make payment fairly. Otherwise, it jeopardizes that. And we've already heard this evening that Attorney Angel has not, although he had the ability to pursue that, he hasn't done it before. So proof is in the pudding. And I appreciate his willingness. Because again, I do have to question the motives this evening. With that being said, I'd like to make a motion to approve Council Attorney Angel's contract agreement with the Cranston City Council for engagement as council attorney and litigation counsel for the city council with the term beginning January 6, 2025, ending January 4, 2027. Subject to the scrivener's change to the fees on page 4 of 6 being instead of 175, 185, and 400 being 450.
Motion has been made. Is there a second? Is there discussion? Not seeing any discussion. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving right along on to council member communications under Council President Marino. Questions for the administration in discussion relative to the FY 2024 annual audit. Council President, you have the floor.
Director Zadelis, there was a question that I posed at the last meeting, and you said that you were going to look into that. I don't know if you have the answer this evening.
Through the chair to the councilor, what I said, your question was on the MD&A, specifically the differences. I said, yes, I would have an answer. I can give you a high overarching example of where the differences are. But what we're doing is taking work papers from the previous auditors, Markham, compared to the work papers from the current CLA. So as an example, you were questioning a $69,000 item going down to 24. The crux of it is, excuse me? What's contributing to that is you got to remember that schedule is a combination of us and the school department. I can give you where the variances are on our side, very succinctly. If you recall, in FY '23, we spent 19 million in ARPA. In FY '24, we spent 4. So that $15 million difference is contributing to that variance. I'm going through line by line on the MD&A, which is, if you want to tie it back, it's Exhibit 2 in the schedule. And I'm getting you a reconciliation of all of those. So that I can assure you, you will have by the next council meeting.
Thank you, Director Zadelis. Thank you, Chairman Wall. I don't know if anyone else has any questions. I'll leave that to you.
Any discussion on the item that the council president brought up? Not seeing any. It would appear that there's no further business before this committee this evening, so the chair will be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, signify by saying nay. The ayes have it. That motion carries. This meeting is adjourned. Our next one will start, Council President,
Yes, right now?
right now?
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna
Let's
start
get into
immediately.
it. Yep. Good evening. Welcome to the special city council meeting for Monday, January 3rd. At this time, if the clerk can please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano,
Present.
Councilman Bunano,
Present.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Present.
Councilwoman Harayan,
Present.
Councilman Andujar,
Present.
Councilman Ritz,
Present.
Councilman Trafficante,
Present.
Council Vice President Wall,
Here.
Council President Marino.
Present. Next, we have a Finance Committee report from the Chair, Council Vice President Wall on the Finance Committee meeting held earlier this evening. Council Vice President Wall.
Okay, the Finance Committee did meet just a short time ago. A couple of items were considered. The first item would be consideration and approval of the agreement between the City Council and Thomas Lima to provide certain media-related services for the term of January 6, 2025 through the term of December 31st, 2026. This was referred out of committee, passed out of Finance Committee. I would urge passage this evening.
Okay. Any motions to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion from council members?
What, are we doing them both at once?
No.
Times? Okay, thanks.
Yep. Okay, there being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno.
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Harayan,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
The next item of business was the consideration and approval of the agreement between the City Council and Angel Law LLC and Stephen J. Angel Esquire for the engagement as council attorney and litigation counsel for the City Council, term beginning January 6, 2025 and ending January 4, 2027. This was passed.
So
recently.
moved.
I would urge passage.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the agreement between the Cranston City Council and Angel Law LLC and Stephen Angel for engagement as City Council attorney and litigation counsel for the City Council term beginning January 6, 25, ending January 4, 27, as approved in committee?
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno.
Yes.
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Harayan. Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilman Ritz,
Yes.
Councilman Trafficante,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Okay, that will conclude the special city council meeting. Do you have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Good evening.